Welcome agents. So on Wednesday, the Division 2 revealed the very first part of its changes, which tackled loot, gear, recal and crafting. Now in my coverage of the news, I gave a very limited opinion on the changes announced, instead choosing to make sure everything was covered, although I did miss that stash space is going to be increased to 300 in Title Update 6. Now today, I wanted to discuss the changes in a bit more detail and give you my thoughts and feedback on them. If you enjoy this one, please hit the like button below, subscribe for dedicated Division 2 content, and let's start. Okay, so for me there are two huge changes that really made the difference. The new named gear and targeted loot system. Let's start off with the new named gear and why I think this is such a huge addition to the game. If you missed my recap on Wednesday, why? And don't do that again. But just so you're up to speed, here's a summary from the official Division 2 Reddit page of what's coming and why. Over the course of the campaign, you get some named weapons like Emmeline's Guard P90 that have a specific look and a story behind them, but currently they are basically a reskin of existing weapons, and they're also not more powerful than the normal weapons. That is why they want to revamp those, add more, and also make them more interesting to acquire. The team is reworking named items so that they are more exciting when they drop and more powerful when players use them. The developers are trying to add special visuals to all named items. There will be 35 new named items, that's weapons and gear, that will be added to the game. The devs didn't confirm whether all of these will be coming out in Title Update 6 or whether they'll be coming out over the lifespan of the game. Now some of these items will have unique sources where you can farm them. There will also be very rare drops, and they will be an incentive to play the more difficult content of the game as well, like heroic missions, higher difficulty checkpoints and all that sort of stuff. The specific sources are still a work in progress. There will also be a visual indicator so that you don't miss the drop. The special thing about these named items is they have a unique talent on them that is basically a perfect version of an existing high-end talent. For example, when a normal talent does say 10% weapon damage under specific conditions, the perfect version does 15% on the named item. While one talent is fixed per item, the rest of the stats on the named item are still RNG, so you will be able to get different qualities of these weapons, and that special talent cannot be recalibrated away to other items. Okay, now you're up to speed. Why are these changes so good for the game? Well, right now, there's no sort of wow gear in the game. When exotics drop, it's cool, but exotics are collectibles and are no more powerful than regular gear, except for the Eagle Bearer, of course. Now, this wasn't the case in the Division. Exotics were generally more powerful than normal weapons. You could look at the House, for example, which made them really sought after. But here, exotics were built to just be another way to play the game, rather than offer that extra bit of power. Look at the Pestilence, for example. The devs have made changes to exotics to increase their base damage over time, but they are still simply there as collectible items and nothing more really. Named gear will fill that gap. Named gear is going to be that pinnacle item which will offer a small increase in power that everyone will want, and with a small drop chance, they're going to be those items which drop and you're excited to pick up. You know, when they drop, you're going to be, oh my god, that named weapon or gear has just dropped, what's it going to be? And with a choice of 35, then there's going to be quite a huge pool of them, so that's going to be really, really cool. It's also going to take you, I imagine, some time to collect them all, which again is perfect because we don't want to get rid of the grind. We want the grind to be there, and this, I believe, is going to be a very, very good way of doing that. The game has been missing something like this since its launch, so I'm really, really glad to hear that this is going to be coming into the game. Really excited. Next up, and we are getting targeted loot. This feature is going to be a game changer, in my opinion. One of the biggest issues with the game right now is RNG and lack of ways to target the loot that you want. Before the news on Wednesday, the suggestion I saw going around a lot in the community was to have like True Sons drop a certain type of weapon or gear and do the same for the remaining factions. Now I thought this would be a good idea, but I actually think the new targeted loot system appears to be much better. This is what the devs had to say about targeted looting. When you're in World Tier 5 after Title Update 6 goes live, you'll now have a new way to target specific loot. This system will allow you to hunt for certain loot types, such as specific gear slots, brand items, weapon type, and mods. Every mission and name zone will have a specific type of loot associated with it. Several zones and missions might offer the same loot, and so you can choose which activity suits your playstyle best. Replay missions, or even complete open world activities in name zones if you're after specific items. For convenience, there will be information on the mega map to communicate which missions and name zones have an increased drop chance for which item types. We've also included a timer to ensure players have how long the currently targeted loot rotation is active. Large icons represent drops in named zones, while smaller icons tell you which main missions offer which loot. With Title Update 6, all of the missions, or the main missions and the named zones will have a certain type of loot assigned to them for a specific amount of time. They'll also have more loot sources than items, so you will be able to target every brand item listed below every single day. These are the specific loot pools. We've got weapon archetypes, gear slots, brands, gear mods and skill mods. Possible gear sets, those are still a work in progress at the moment. This mission name zone assignment will rotate each day, so you will not burn out on a specific mission when you're looking for specific items. Loot refreshes and you'll get a message at login that tells you the rotation has refreshed, and the target loot will also be highlighted in the loot pile. So this new system exceeded my expectations for a few reasons. One, it will visually tell you where stuff is going to drop on the map. If the devs had just said, ARs and SMGs drop on True Suns now, whilst it wouldn't have been difficult to find True Sun activities, having a UI change that visually tells you exactly where stuff is going to be will be much better. Two, you can now target every type of gear piece in the game. This drastically lowers the RNG in the game without making it so easy that the grind is gone. Now you will have a 1 in 6 chance of having any boss dropping the specific gear piece that you want from the set you are targeting, and that doesn't include the increased chance of that targeted loot dropping from NPCs and other sources, essentially. This doesn't, of course, include the different variety of brands, but I think there still needs to be some real grind involved, and I'm okay with that. Number 3, I really like that each item rotates on a daily basis, and this was something I never even considered before. I can imagine it becoming quite stale, going to the same name zone or doing the same missions for the game for some brand of gear or weapon that you're trying to go for. So having this in place and having this rotate every day just ensures you're playing different things often. Overall, I couldn't have asked for a better system here, and I'm actually really excited that I can finally do something that ensures I have some chance of getting the gear that I want. So those were the 2 most important changes for me. But there were of course more changes than that which are really, really good. Gear sets are getting huge change. You will no longer require 6 pieces, but 4 pieces to unlock all of the bonuses. This is a huge positive change to the use of gear sets in future builds. You can now have 4 pieces of, say, aces and 8s for example, 1 named piece of gear and an exotic in one build. Whilst I don't think gear sets are generally going to get any better with TU6, they are likely going to be used more frequently in builds, which is a positive in my book. On top of this change, the chest and backpack of any gear set will now roll an additional high-end talent, so I guess they're actually going to be stronger than they are now. This is a huge plus as well. And finally, with gear sets, I'm really happy that the raid exclusive gear sets will be dropping outside of the raid, except for the chest and the backpack. I think this is kind of like a happy medium between players, to be honest. There is still an incentive to go into the raid for these pieces, as they will come with the additional talent, but for those people that don't, they can still get 4 pieces of those gear sets from the general loot pool. That's it today, guys. The devs did reveal changes coming to recount and crafting, but I wanted to make a separate video for that one just because I think it might be quite a long one. Overall, the changes mentioned here are a huge positive for the game, in my opinion. RNG will be vastly reduced here, which is a big plus. That's probably the biggest issue in the game right now. There is a PTS coming soon as well, meaning we are going to get a real chance to play around with these new changes, and it's likely we're going to see further changes from this testing as well. None of this stuff is set in stone at the moment. Stuff can change or stuff can be added, which again is cool. On top of this, I do not think we have been told everything about loot and gear yet. Either the devs are going to reveal this stuff in future live streams, or as we've seen in previous PTSs, players are going to discover this stuff when the PTS actually drops. That is pretty normal. I'm excited that with TU6 it won't feel like my chance of getting the gear I want is impossible, but instead a grind that will give me the gear that I want. The devs did say that we should expect some serious changes, and it definitely looks like the ETS has been successful with the loot and the gear here. Next Wednesday we've got the PvP news, so Conflict and the Dark Zone as well. I'm hoping for some really good additions here, like more game modes, maybe an unnormalized conflict game mode, which I think would be absolutely awesome. A large-scale game mode like Last Stand, again, I think that would be a great addition. And then I want to see some changes to the actual PvP mechanics. Changes that would make it more fun, for example. With the loot and gear news in mind, I'm very excited and hopeful that the PvP news we're going to get will be positive and hopefully enough to encourage people to play PvP again, myself included. If you stuck around until the end here, I really do appreciate your support. Let me know your thoughts and feedback on the loot and gear news, and maybe include your roster for news on PvP next week down below. Until the next one, guys, Epic out.